Hi, this is David Odell with Odell Complete Concrete. This particular video, we're going to show how to build a bulletproof retaining wall. Good for a minimal of 60 years. Also, we're going to be doing this driveway as well. That's in another video. So we're taking out the bushes. We're going to dig back this hillside a bit so we can widen the driveway. Basically, we want to get an RV in there without obstructing the driveway and the garage doors. So we're going to take it over about 8 feet, and that'll be where the RV ends up going. So we'll cut this hillside down, and I've got the track Kubota on this one, which I really like. It has a lot of forward movement power, and it doesn't hesitate when you run into stuff. I got Danny with Earth Basics over here, which I normally use to haul the dirt and whatever else I generate. Basically, we're going to be putting a 4-foot tall retaining wall up against that hillside right there. And the way we're going to build it is we're going to put about a 20-inch deep footing and about a 2-foot wide. So basically 2 foot by 2 foot footing below grade. When I say below grade, I mean below the new driveway by about 4 inches. That way I can get my concrete over the footing without having to chip the new footing. So I don't have a backhoe attachment on this little Kubota here, but I have easy access, so I can just go in here with my bucket and just scoop it out. It's not a super clean trench, but I can get my depth at least. We're going to use the laser level here to establish this footing depth. So basically what we've done is we've leveled this with these 2 adjustable screws. One is for this direction and one is for the other direction. Once you level it in both directions, you can turn it on. Now this is spinning level, so it's sending out a laser level in a straight line 360 degrees. This item here, you can see it has an arrow. You see that arrow there? And it's pointing up, so you had to come up until now it says down. When you get a flat line, straight line in the middle, you're level with the laser. So what we're going to do is get our depth. Okay, now I'm level for this concrete right here. Now what I gotta do is I want to find the bottom of that footing. I want to be 22 inches below the top of this concrete. So now we'll just go 22 inches. We're at 2'9". 3'9" will be 24 inches. 3'9", so that's 3'9" is 12 inches. 4'9", 24 inches. Back it down 2, so we're at 4'7", which is 22 inches. Now we're 22 inches lower than the top of concrete right here. So now I go to the footing. And it looks like we've got a long ways to go. Let's take a look. How much exactly? Holy shit, is that right?
Lower. You go down.
Down.
Oh yeah. Was that 9? One foot. We gotta go down 10 more inches, in other words. Well, now that I know we gotta go 10 more inches at this point. So now that you know how I started my footing level and what I gauged off of the driveway, we're also on a slope here. As you can see, the driveway is pretty well sloped, so we have to actually step the footing as we go down towards the street. Now what we're doing is we're coring a hole through the curb face, a 3-inch, because I'm going to be putting a perforated drain pipe at the bottom behind the retaining wall. That perforated 3-inch drain line behind the retaining wall is going to be encased in gravel, and that gravel is going to be encased in a weed or drainage fabric. Because what that does is it stops the dirt from infiltrating the gravel and also infiltrating into the pipe and basically making the whole drainage system worthless. So what you have to do to get good positive drainage is drop your 3-inch perforated pipe behind the wall, and then you'll want to drop gravel over that, and you want to have it encased in the fabric. And that way you keep your gravel clean. The water can get into there real easily and head on out to the street. That's how we're going to do this. And you can see the different layers of dirt there. It's all topsoil. It's all fill dirt. What we got when we dug down here, we ended up getting to the native soil, which happens to be some basic clay type soil. So this wall of dirt's about 4.5 feet right now, if you'd go all the way to the bottom of the footing. We're down to the hard stuff, so we're using the electric jackhammer with a clay spade on it. And that gets the dirt out real quick with that. A lot easier than using a pick. A backhoe, of course, is easier than that, but this is a pretty small job, so we're just going to make it work. See the layers of sediment there as we went down? You can see the topsoil, and you can see when you get down to native, which is the clay. So now we know we're on some good sub base when we get down on that. That's basically undisturbed. Now this little other wall here is just a 4-inch. It didn't do too well with the dirt up against it. I'm taking a measurement right now because I want to make this wall parallel with the house. In other words, straight with the house. So I'm measuring all the way across to the outside edge of the driveway, and the driveway happens to be straight with the house. So I'm measuring off of that to get a straight line. I have all my block already here. These bags of concrete is actually just for the grout, because we're going to be solid grouting these 8 by 8 by 16 block. These are precision grade block. Also, I'm going to be running some 1/2-inch steel. I'm going to run 2 horizontally in the footing, 2 1/2-inch horizontally in the footing, and I'm going to run vertically 1/2-inch with some 9-inch tails on them every 2 foot. And that's going to be my verticals going up. Also, I'm going to have 2 bond beams on this running horizontal with 1/2-inch steel in it. I'm going to have one at the top of this retaining wall. I'm going to have one in the middle, and then I've got my 2 in the footing, and I got my verticals every 2 foot. So it's going to be nice and solid. And then I'm going to grout every cell with steel, plus I'm going to grout, basically I'm going to grout the whole wall entirely solid. and that'll help stop water and also make it stronger. I'm going to put a waterproofing membrane on the back of this wall so water won't infiltrate through the concrete and come out the block face and start to disintegrate the block, because that's what happens over time if you don't have a waterproofing membrane on the back of your wall. So that's real important. Get that waterproofing on the back of a wall when you got dirt up against it. Otherwise, that wall's going to start coming apart. So here's how we bend the steel. Now what I'm doing is, initially I thought we were going to salvage that little 18-inch high, 4-inch wide wall, but we ended up removing that and putting some 8/16s in place of it. So we continued our whole plan all the way around. Now this block, even though it's a regular grade precision, it doesn't have a stone face, it's not going to be stuccoed. You can do all that to it and you wouldn't have to worry about it detaching or being getting water damage from the backside. So you have a lot of options, and you build a wall like this, there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Also, we're going to have to step it down over here. They got a vinyl fence here, and we're going to have to step the block down to retain all that dirt as well, so it doesn't come out, onto the new driveway. That particular stake I just drove in the middle of that string line is where we'll have a step down in the footing. And I'm getting away with just a 4-inch step down, even though we have a little more slope than that from the back of the driveway to the front. The reason I'll be able to get away with a 4-inch step down is because I started low enough to begin with. So I won't have to worry about running into my footing when I pour the driveway over the top of it. Now I'm going to hang a 2x4 exactly on grade of bottom of footing. So I can fill this footing up right to the bottom of that 2x4, and that'll give me my elevation of my first course. Also what it does is it allows me to attach vertical steel to that 2x4 in the right places. You can see the 4-inch step down there. Since I'm working with 3.5-inch 2x4s, there's a 1/2-inch space in between the two to allow for that. So what we'll be using basically is we'll start out with regular 8-inch blocks, and we hit that step, we'll go with 4 high splits, and then our next course after that step will be fulls again, and then we'll be on the same bond. Now you can tie wire these around the rebar for your verticals, but I just put a couple 8 duplexes and bent it around my verticals. Tie wire works too, but I always carry nails in my nail belt, so it worked out real good. Now I'm going to tie one of the bars in my horizontal in the footing to these bars, and then my other one is going to I'm going to drop it in as I pour. So what happens here is we ended up building this wall here, and then we ended up getting the go-ahead to complete and remove the 4-inch. So that was the next day. We just continued the wall all the way around. So here's what it looks like when you're ready to pour concrete. All your steel's in the right place. You've got good depth. You got your steel in position. Now this little return here, I just kind of freehanded that. Now what I'm doing here is I'm hanging some fabric. This is the day of the pour for the footing itself. So that's this fabric I'm hanging on the back side is my drainage fabric. And what that's going to do is contain the dirt from infiltrating my leach system. And I just did this ahead of time because it's a lot easier. I don't have to crawl behind the block wall and try to work all this. This kind of sets me up. So now I'm pouring the concrete against this fabric at the bottom, and that's going to hold the bottom from moving on the fabric itself. And then I just puts a couple 16 duplex just to kind of hang it up on the hill. What I'll do later after I get a course up or two on this block is I'll prefab my drainage system outside of this back trench because I don't have a lot of space behind this wall. I've only got about 1 foot and I really can't fit in there. Some people could, but I can't fit in there. So I'm going to put the 3-inch drain together on the outside of this wall. You know, after we get 2 courses up, I'm going to take the whole system. I'm just going to carry it over and drop it behind. And then what I'll do after the wall is completely built and grouted solid, I'll start dropping in gravel from the front side with the scoop of the tractor. And then I'll drop the fabric over the top of that gravel and then put dirt on it. So here we are now getting our first course in. We're going to wet set this. This little footing, believe it or not, was about 6.5 yards. There's your splits I was talking about earlier that drop down. Then the next course on those splits will be a full, and then you'll be back on bond with that second upper course. Now here's the drain system I was talking about that I'm going to prefab on the outside while they're building the wall. Now this is a perforated. I have my holes up so the water can go in and then out into the street. Now I've just dropped that baby down on top of the footing. And now it's in there and I don't have to go behind that wall ever. So another thing I'm going to be doing as we go up here, I'm going to be grouting it solid at the same time as we go up. Also what I'll be doing is I have a waterproof, it's a mix that's a water stop that I'm going to actually sponge float on the back of the wall, nice and thick, as we go up the wall. So we're going to get the waterproofing on there. Basically, we're going to complete this wall as it goes up, the whole system. Now, I don't like the open joints on the bottom course, so I went ahead and went back on it, and I bagged them out. Yeah, I don't need holes on this particular wall at all because I have a drainage system in there, so anything that goes behind it will just go into a drain and out. You can see there I'm going to set a bond beam on my second course. You can see the open courses on the top of this course that's going in right now. And that's where another horizontal will lay and tie to these verticals. And then we'll start going up with some more verticals and horizontal. We'll get one more horizontal near the top. So right now I'm sponge floating some waterproof membrane on the back of this wall here. You can brush it on, roll it on, and that's on the directions. But what's not on the directions, here's the material I was talking about. It's called poly water stop. It's a masonry coating. It's a powder that we blend up, kind of like the consistency of a pancake batter. What I do is I sponge float it on like a sponge float you would use for a stucco texture. You can use a roller or a brush like I was saying, but I think a sponge float's probably the best. You can get it on there pretty nice and thick, one application. Now that drain, that's the end of that drain line, and it's close to the end of the wall, or near the fence. So we could actually potentially in the future expose the bottom of that pipe and access it, continue that drain line into the backyard. If this retaining wall were to continue throughout the backyard. So on the drain line itself, I have, what do I got? I got 4 uprights that surface water. I'll end up putting some atrium drains up there when I establish my new hillside grade, and I'll work it so everything drains. Surface water will end up going into the top of the pipes and out. Any groundwater, of course, will go into the bottom of the pipe, but probably most of your runoff will go through the top of the system. So I'm just using a basic flat cap on here. And you can get real tricky with this wall. Put some stone veneer on it. Put some stucco on it. Put some brick facing on it. Whatever you really like, you could throw on here, and it would work real well. But in this case, we're just going to leave it sweet and simple. Now I've ran my verticals down, attaching to the other verticals I already had stubbed up, and we've been grouting this thing solid as we came up. So as we throw it in, I was packing it down in there to make sure I got it nice and solid. You can see how we stepped it down along that vinyl fence up there. That'll retain the dirt from coming out from underneath that. We've got the wall up high enough to retain the hillside. There's what your finished product. There's the gravel I used to backfill. We got a big pile of clean 3/4 inch gravel. Fabric still up on the bank, and all I gotta do is start dropping the gravel in. We got a New Holland tractor. My first time in one of these. I'm gonna do a little test run on it, see how they feel. I'm grabbing the gravel, throwing it behind. They're holding that fabric up on the hillside, and once I get all this gravel over, I got about a good 2 feet of gravel over that pipe, and then I'll drop that fabric over the top of the gravel, and then I'll put the dirt on it. A couple little fabric adjustments here and there. Now the gravel's in, we've raked the gravel around. The fabric's going down nice and tight. The water can go through that, and it retains the dirt from getting into the gravel and clogging the whole system up. Anyway, this is all about the retaining wall here, but we got another video that's going to show the actual driveway going in. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.